The Jarvan line of kings dates back to the early days of Demacia, and it's a shame that we don't know more about the history of the kings, only a few accolades. Jarvan I was killed in battle by Sion, and virtually nothing is known about Jarvan II. Our story begins with the young Jarvan III. In his younger days as king, Demacia was unruly and the nobility was split, seeking the favor of the king in a viper pit of court politics, similar to ancient Camivor, far to the east. Seeking to unite the people and face the enemies without Demacia rather than those within, he took a bride, Lady Catherine. She was loved by the people and the marriage accomplished Jarvan III's goal of uniting Demacia. But the moment of happiness for the kingdom was fleeting as Lady Catherine died during childbirth. The king decided to place all his faith and dreams in his son, Jarvan IV, and did not take a second wife. In his early life, young Jarvan lived as you would expect from a warrior prince, tutored in the Demacian values of charity, the burden of duty, and a life spent serving one's people. Young Jarvan IV took these lessons very seriously. But his most important and favorite lessons were in war. Jarvan IV was trained by Xin Zhao in the practical, tactical, and spiritual aspects of combat, and the two developed a close relationship, with Xin Zhao becoming an adoptive uncle for the prince. During this time as a boy under Xin Zhao's tutelage, Jarvan became enamored by Drakebane, an ancient Demacian weapon which predated even the line of Jarvan. The ancient weapon had been made in the early days of the kingdom by Orlon, the same man who made Poppy's hammer. It was famously used in the old days to defend against Maelstrom, a dragon from the north and its offspring, giving the weapon its name. But for ages it had only been ceremonial, too difficult and too dangerous to its own wielder to use. But Jarvan was determined to learn to use it like the heroes of the stories he loved as a child. But to be taught how to use it, he needed a teacher, and Xin Zhao took it upon himself to master the weapon so he could pass its secrets onto the prince. And in time, Jarvan came to surpass even Xin Zhao in the use of Drakebane. During this time as a boy, Jarvan also met Garen Crownguard, and they both sparred and became close friends due to their similar age. Jarvan respected Garen's skill and tenacity, and Garen admired his prince's aptitude for military tactics. As Jarvan grew older and became a man, he was granted the title of general. The title was meant to only be ceremonial, but Jarvan was eager to live up to it. He set out to drive Noxus from Demacian lands for good, repaying the long overdue debt owed to Jarvan I. Jarvan carved a swath through the Noxian forces, but his hot streak was about to come to an end. At the gates of morning, Jarvan drove deeper and deeper into Noxian territory, but with his forces spread thin, he bit off more than he could chew. He took his surviving soldiers and retreated into the forest, refusing to abandon the campaign altogether. In the forest, he was cornered by Noxian scouts. Pierced by a Noxian arrow, Jarvan was convinced he was going to die, and eventually he fell unconscious due to blood loss. But his life was saved by an unlikely ally. Shyvana, the half-dragon, carried the prince back to the fortress of Renwall. Though still suffering from his injuries, Jarvan sought to repay what he owed to Shyvana and helped her fight her mother Yiva. Though Shyvana was the one who took out Yiva in the end, it was Jarvan who ensured that the soldiers at Renwall did not fold. They took the skull of Yiva back to the capital of Demacia, and from then on, Shyvana became one of Jarvan's closest friends and guards, despite the suspicions surrounding her magical origins, and some suspect that their relationship might be more than just friends. But as time passed, the Mage Seekers grew in power and influence, and alongside this, the oppression faced by the mages, which eventually blew up into the Mage Rebellion. And this led to the events of the Lux comic. Jarvan saw his father murdered, and he became cold and unforgiving. He burned the letter his father had written to Lord Eldred, the head of the Mage Seekers. Now Jarvan IV wants to crack down even harder on the mages, where his father wanted to seize the Mage Seekers' activities the day he was murdered. And Jarvan took the king's death personally. It was no longer about calling unrest in Demacia. The madman Silas had killed his father, and he deserved to pay. At this point in time, Jarvan is unaware that it wasn't Silas or the mages who took out the king, but rather Katarina from Noxus. And that's where Jarvan's story ends for now. Personally, I feel that Jarvan is one of the more underrated characters in the lore, often overshadowed by characters like Silas and the Crown Guards, and we'll see where his story goes after the Mage Seeker game. Tune in tomorrow when we look at Shyvana, the half-dragon, and the relationship she has with Demacia as a magical being. Thank you so much for watching, and come watch me on Twitch, and bye for now, and see you tomorrow.